Something that I've been doing over the last few days, just alone, is falling very, very deeply into this Paul and Morgan rabbit hole where I'm not only watching videos by them or about them, I'm sitting on Reddit and reading full posts about how weird Paul is more specifically. And one of the posts that I read recently was about how weird he was when they first met. And it dawned on me, like when you're trying to wash dishes and you get a little bit of soap on your hand, that I actually don't know how they met, where they met. I don't know how they came to become who it is they are, and especially not together. So if you're like me and you're new to the internet, congrats. If you're not like me, you're not that new to the internet, sorry. The title for their video is The Unusual Story of How We Met and Started Dating, but I'm 99% sure they met on a dating app. Not that weird, not that unusual. There are a couple of gross points, surprising, right, that Paul makes that I got from the Reddit thread that I'm sure we'll get to. Paul looks like he tells people that Morgan dresses him.
What is up, you guys? How you doing? I'm Paul.
I'm Morgan.
In today's video, the unusual story of how we met and fell in love. I wasn't sure if I should say the unusual story, the crazy story, the wild story. Like, I don't want to overhype it, but
It's a dating app. We already know it's a dating app. Oh, that's crazy, dude. That's so unusual. Yeah, you probably never heard of a little app called Tinder. Yeah, we met on Yik Yak. Yeah, we met on Dice Dreams, dude. Like, I don't know. I don't think it's that unusual, but continue, Paul, please.
it is unusual.
Yeah.
And it's fun and it's cool. For those of you who have been following us a while, I literally think it was one of our first 5 or 6 videos where we talked about our first date. So some of you guys may be familiar with this, but it's like we've come so far. We know there are people on here that have no clue, and learning the story of how couples met and fell in love is fun. Like it's a
fun.
good thing.
All right, well,
Every time I do a video like this, I forget so quickly that I'm not the audience. Like, imagine sitting in this room and out of nowhere, Morgan just does this. Like, what was that? Also, apparently one of their lives was wild and got deleted, and the only way I could find it, I'm still looking. The only way I could find it, because Paul said some not great things, was through Nick is Not Green, who I don't know anything about, again, way before my time, but I know people don't like him.
all right, many of you guys know Paul and I just have a passion and a love for a healthy lifestyle.
We do.
We are offering
Here we go. Something a little bit new for the P&M fam.
We want to take you guys through a 21-day program called Trainer
No! That's apparently his dad. Is Trainer Joe Paul's dad? It's like the Ted Lasso quote, be a goldfish, except be a ditto, learn to transform.
Whether you have a lot of weight you would like to lose or whether it's 10 pounds, this might be something that you'd be interested in. We believe in it. You can have. It's actually my dad's program.
Oh, okay, he says it. Cool. I was wondering if they just try to like not say anything about that despite having the same last name.
Working for him for about a year early in our marriage.
I actually went through the program. I just personally felt like I did not have a good grasp mentally on food. I felt like food was controlling me. I was not 100 pounds overweight, but
What is the correlation between people who are overly religious and falling for other vices or feeling like they are being controlled by something? Because it seems to be like a lot of these people have something else. Oh, alcohol. Oh, a lot of times porn, and it goes back to that story of a camp counselor I had. Food, like there's something about people who overcling to religion. I don't know which one comes first. I don't know if they're like, oh, I'm religious, this is the struggle that God has given me, or if there's somebody with that personality type to where they grab onto things, and so they grab on religion the same way they do alcohol or food or any of these quote unquote vices. That's obviously like a very oversimplification of things, and that's a very generalized statement, but I think we're smart enough here to understand what it is that I mean.
so that you can get to a place where you feel confident, happy, and you feel like you're honoring the Father with your body and how you handle food.
Something kind of cool.
We got there. I feel like you're honoring God with your body is wild. And I understand the conversation of like, oh, God gave you this vessel. It's temporary. It belongs to God. It's not yours. Don't get tattoos. Don't destroy it. I guess they also include like overeating and stretching out your body. I would have a lot more patience for listening to people like this talk if they could do it without connecting everything to God. But I guess if that was also my only personality trait, I would do the same thing.
Is the average weight loss for the 21-day transformation, I believe, is right around 11 pounds. So
incredibly unhealthy, by the way. Like, I don't know how many of you know anything about fitness. I don't know too much, right? I grew up playing sports and for a while tried to get into the science of it, but did not really grasp it. 11 pounds in 21 days is a lot. A lot. Like, that is an unhealthy amount of weight to lose in 3 weeks.
This 21-day program costs $65.
And the sessions will be Tuesday night, 6 p.m. Eastern time, and Thursday night, 6 p.m. Eastern time. And we can send
3 p.m. PST is kind of wild. Like, a lot of these people are going to be at work still. I don't want to touch on that too much more because it has nothing to do with the video. It's just an ad. If you are someone who is looking for some sort of like group or community or program that is going to help you do whatever it is you want to do, whether it's lose weight or not, find one that is going to come from people who are going to just want what's best for you. I don't know what that looks like in terms of pricing. I don't know what that looks like in terms of like the support that you want, but a bunch of people who are too busy doing other things because they don't really want to run this. Rather, this is just an easy way to make money is probably not the group you want to be a part of.
Send you videos if you happen to miss because you have an obligation or something. If you're hearing this and you're
or work because it's at 6 p.m. Eastern and some of you work 9 to 5s in the other 75% of the country.
Morgan, why don't you kick things off? Start us from the beginning. I didn't know you. You didn't know me. How did we get on each other's radars?
Okay. I had gotten out of a 3.5-year-long relationship. I was over the idea of dating to look for someone to marry. I was like, I just did that for 3.5 years. Like, believing that I was going to marry this guy. I'm over that. All right. So I'm just going to go on some dates with some guys for fun. They'll take me out to fancy places. It'll be great.
She was not in the best of places, to be honest.
This is the first problem that the Reddit kind of had with Paul, is that Morgan is now explaining, I was in a 3.5-year-long relationship. I was not in a good place. I was like, you know what? Not even going to date to marry right now. I'm dating because I want the fun of it. And Paul jumps in. She wasn't in a good place. That's how I knew it was my time to pounce. And that is just not a good look. I'm not saying that relationships shouldn't be allowed to come out of this situation. I would be lying to you if I said I didn't get out of a bad relationship, regardless of how long it was, and then get into a good one pretty soon after. That was not the one I'm in now. I took like a year-long break. It was a time. But the one before that kind of felt like that. Like, I'd been with this person for about a year. It was not great. After it ended, within like a month, I was with someone new, and it was really nice for a really long time. And so I'm not saying it can't happen or it shouldn't happen, but to be able to say I was in a really, really bad place and I didn't want this, and then your partner going, yeah, you were in a bad place, weren't you? Pretty gross to me, and also the people on Reddit. Also the fact that what it becomes is, yeah, you were in a bad place, now you're going to be in a worse one, dude. This is how you find out that Paul's birth name was actually Judas, and he changed it to Paul to trick people. Got you.
It's not. Okay, I was a mess. Honestly, I was figuring things out and I was not figuring them out.
Bless her heart. I mean, but praise God for his grace.
Truly.
On us.
Okay, if I'm being honest, I feel like God was like, okay, Morgan got out of this relationship. She listened to me because it was very clear that it was God telling me to get out of the relationship. But like, she's losing it. And so I just need to plop her husband right in front of her because I don't know where I know everything. So I know where she's going. I don't want her to go there. So bloop, here's your husband.
So I wonder if they get into any of her relationship prior to him, because 3.5 years is a long time. 3.5 years is a long time to be with one person, and I cannot imagine that just never having been a conversation between them.
And real quick, guys, a little disclaimer. We're just being real with how our relationship happened. We're not suggesting that you take all of the elements of what we're about to share and apply them to you guys and say, okay, I want to do it just like this. Take the good stuff, leave the stuff.
Unless you want a relationship where every person on the outside looking in is criticizing you and wishing that your wife got out of there on the internet, I probably wouldn't take too much advice from them.
Leave the stuff that maybe isn't as great.
So 4 months after that relationship, my friend and I had made myself a Tinder account.
Tinder. Oh, can't live with it, can't live without it.
Is he gonna make fun of Tinder but that's how they met.
You can definitely live without
definitely
it.
live
But
without
we lived with it, and it worked.
Okay.
And it worked.
Yes, so I made a Tinder profile. My friend kind of convinced me of it. We're like, it'll be fun. Totally like a joke. Like, I was not really planning to actually go out on dates. I ended up going out on one other date besides Paul.
It's always a joke. Making a Tinder or a Hinge or a Bumble is always a joke. I think dating apps now are a lot less scrutinized, maybe, than they were back then. And especially when I was like 20. Like now when people are like, oh yeah, I'm on Tinder, I'm on Hinge, you're like, yeah, normal. But in like 2018, 2019, 2020, if you're like, oh yeah, I'm on Tinder, people are like, wow, I would never. I want to meet my person the old fashioned way. I want to go to a bar, get uncomfortably hit on by some dude who's already drunk, give him my number because I feel bad, and then just end up together because no one else hit on me that night. If you're on Twitch or Twitter, you're on a dating app. It's 2025. I don't make the rules.
I ended up going out on one other date besides Paul.
It wasn't a joke for me.
And then Paul came along.
That's interesting. So I came into the picture 4 months after you got out of a 3.5 year long relationship. That wasn't a great situation.
Yeah.
Some people would say like,
don't do that.
Don't do that. Give yourself more time
to heal.
Guys, I think real quick, this just goes to show, like, the story that we're about to unfold for you guys goes to show there's not one cookie cutter way to do it.
No, there's not.
There were elements where maybe like it wasn't ideal, and praise God, it just worked out. So
I will say that a 3.5 year long relationship is not a 3.5 year long relationship, in that at some point you have to decide that you want to break up. And if it's 3 years in and you spend 6 months already dealing with the breakup before you actually break up, yeah, I get that. And so 4 months isn't just 4 months. I don't know her story. I don't know if she was the person that got out of there, or if it was the other way around. But I know plenty of people who broke up years before they actually did.
But honestly, I'm serious, guys. Like, I think that I was going down a dangerous path, and God was just like, I'm gonna save my little girl. I'm gonna redirect her. Polly!
I hated that.
And I will send this man. Go. The funny thing is, you guys, like, I
Paul can't be a hero because he's too bad at pickleball. If Paul was a hero in any story, he would be better at pickleball. I think that just has to be true.
was not, like, praise God. I mean, he really was involved in this, and I don't want to belittle the part I played. You know, I'm a good man. But I wasn't no perfect Prince Charming.
No.
From when we met to when we got married. Like, there was, but anyway, just, all right.
Yeah.
So we matched on Tinder. Oh, by the way, I got on Tinder. Some girls that I was working with were like, Paul, you should get a Tinder. Got a Tinder, and I was suddenly like intrigued. Whoa, you know, interesting.
All these girls.
I was in a place where I was looking for a wife. And guys, like, as you maybe already,
I can Google this, right? Can I not just Google this? So to not bore you guys with the last 20 minutes of scrolling I've done, Paul and Morgan have been together since November of 2015 when they met on Tinder. They got married in July of 2016, so a little under a year. He was 26 when they met, which makes her 20, which means her 3.5 year long relationship started when she was like 16. So Paul is probably her second real relationships. And we talked about age gaps a lot here. 26-20 is wild. No, absolutely not. Like, that is just way too much. I know that some of you are going to be like, well, they were adults. 26-20 is nuts. I'm 27 now. I can't imagine being with a 21-year-old. Let alone like having been with a 20-year-old a year ago. My partner's 26. The idea of being with someone who's like in undergrad right now? No, absolutely not. Entirely different stages of life. Especially someone who's 20, just got out of a 3.5 year long relationship and is probably spiraling like 20-year-olds do. I cannot imagine trusting a 20-year-old to have a grasp on their feelings well enough to be able to communicate what they want and need after having just got out of a very, very long relationship. So, unusual story of how we met. She was young, she was sad, she needed somebody. I needed a wife.
where I was looking for a wife. And guys, like, as you maybe already know, online dating, it can work. A lot of people are meeting online. Obviously, there are some sites that we'd recommend more than others.
Right.
I would recommend any of the more Christian dating sites than I would the more secular ones. Tinder.
Like Tinder. Tinder is such like a wonderful way to meet Christian people. I love the option of hooking up with strangers. Grinder, very Christian.
Tinder, I got one and I was like, who knows? Maybe I'll find a really quality woman and end up marrying her. It may be, some of you guys would say it's dumb. Some of you would say, I don't want to mess with Tinder. I get that. I'm not saying go get a Tinder.
I thought it was dumb when we first met.
There are a lot of not great people on Tinder, so you need to be cautious. I'm not going to go into that though.
I have to remember that she's young every time she like makes a sound that I'm annoyed by. And that I also like would not be annoyed at my partner doing that. I'm annoyed at a stranger that I already don't like making sounds that annoy me.
Oh, I was on Tinder. I see that I've matched with this Morgan Holly. She's got all these cutesy pictures of her in Miami.
Yeah.
It looks like she's doing music. I'm intrigued, but in her bio, and maybe not a lot of people know this.
Oh no, don't do this, ladies. Don't do this, please.
In her bio, it said something like, I like to snuggle.
Or cuddle or something.
Or cuddle. And so I look at that and I'm just like, pass. That just sounds, I'm just going to be honest, it just sounds loose to me.
It did.
And Paul, the 27-year-old virgin, just couldn't handle that. Oh, she likes to snuggle, dude? Well, I'm not going to let her hold on to me, be my big spoon, and drag me down to hell. Oh, no, don't do that. Don't big spoon me. Oh, no. Oh, no, I would hate that. And you, like, grab their arm. You seatbelt it around yourself. Yeah. I hate this.
Some of you may hear that and be like, oh, Paul, get over yourself. To me, it's like, I interpreted it as some of you might.
He is coming from a place of, I've never had a woman want to touch me. Therefore, women who want to touch men are loose. Which I don't know how to explain to you. You're just a loser, bro. Damn.
This girl's good to snuggle with guys.
And people chill out, okay? You don't need to come to my defense. I am a strong woman. I can speak for myself. And I was not in a good place.
I don't want no girl who's snuggling with lots of guys on Tinder. But maybe a day goes by and I get this message from Morgan Holly.
I sent him that message.
So we have to understand that when he said pass, he didn't actually pass, right? Because you have to match in order to message. And so what happened was, I promise you, what happened was he did the thing that men do on Tinder. I'm in this category, all right? Listen, stop. But he did the thing where he like just swipes right on everyone and then reads the bio of who he matches with. And then when he read the bio, he was like, well, I'm not going to message her. She's probably snuggling another man right now. But she's just at home playing Stardew Valley getting rejected by Krobus.
I get this message from Morgan Holly.
I sent him that message.
And her message was,
hey, I love Jesus too. So there's that. Because in his bio, it said, love God, 5th grade teacher, love cats.
Okay.
I don't know why he said love cats, because he doesn't actually love cats.
And I'm allergic.
So he's a liar.
She sends me that message. I'm like, all right, I'm going to give her a chance. We start messaging back and forth a little bit. I'm realizing, whoa, there's something special about this girl. I'm looking for a wife, so I'm not messing around with the questions I'm asking. So I'm hitting her with some tough questions to see, is this girl way out there, or is she someone who has a heart for the Lord and maybe is just a little edgy? And I really was enjoying getting to know you through messages on Tinder, and then we jumped onto Facebook.
What type of questions do you think he was asking where he's going like, these are hard-hitting questions, no one else would answer them? Was he like, all right, how many people have you snuggled with? I want a number. I want an exact number. If you can't tell me a number, that's because there's been too many, like those random people who interview women on the street on TikTok. If she doesn't want to tell you your body count, it's because there's been too many, or because it's none of your business. But sure, bro. Or he's like asking her trivia questions like, what was Jesus' job? Oh, you knew he was a carpenter. Damn. No, you are one with the Lord. What was his shoe size?
A few days go by and I noticed that she was living in Louisville. I was in Lexington, about an hour and 15 minutes apart. And I said, hey, Morgan, I'm going to this book fair in Frankfurt, kind of like, here's Lexington, here's Louisville, here's Frankfurt. I'm going to...
Why are you going to a book fair? There's no way this man was casually going to a book fair, right? Like, this was for the sake of their date. Like, if she was busy, he would have not gone.
This book fair on Saturday. Would you like to join me? So what was your thoughts right then when you get that from me on Facebook?
I was like, book fair? So I was like, okay, we're gonna go look at like a bunch of books in like a giant convention hall. I've never heard of this. Cool. I'm down.
And that's after only talking for probably 3 days. So that's kind of risky.
After I said yes, I told my friend, and I was like, hey, I'm going on this date. I'm not telling my parents because I don't want them to know yet about Tinder.
Don't do that, you
Don't
guys.
do that.
Don't keep it from your
Please
parents.
don't do that. I don't know why. I was 20 at that point. Like, my parents aren't going to tell me, no, I can't go. But I just, like, wasn't ready to, like, hear it from them. I don't know.
It sounds like she moved on from one parental figure to another. Like, she's 20 and afraid of communicating with her parents. So now she's going to get into a relationship with a man so that she can be afraid of communicating with someone else.
So I was just like, I'm just going to go, whatever.
Sorry, Tina and Charlie. But, you know, it's how it went.
So I gave my friend my location. She had, like, where I was at all times. And I was like, if something goes wrong, call my mom.
Why are you just picking at your belly button, bro? Like, what's going on in there?
I was at all times, and I was like, if something goes wrong,
what are you hiding in there? Like he's like he's not just scratching; he's like getting deep in there. That's wild. All right,
call my mom.
So at least she had a little something in place.
Yeah.
If I ended up being
a psychopath,
a psycho. So we show up. I show up in Frankfurt. I'm walking over to the Frankfurt Convention Center where the book fair was, and I'm thinking, is she really gonna show up? Did I even have your...
Really? You didn't think that I was going to show up?
I had my doubts.
Yeah, you had my number.
I had your number at that point? Mm-hmm. I had my doubts because it's like, there's so many flaky people in the world. And especially when it comes to dates of people that you hadn't had a friendship with. So I'm walking in and I'm like, all right, is she going to show up? I'm looking around. I see this girl and I can still remember she had on high-waisted jeans and a long flowy cardigan. Mm-hmm. Navy blue. Mm-hmm. Her hair was a pretty, like, it was a reddish auburn.
Yeah, my color.
He's talking about her like she doesn't exist anymore. Like, this idea of her is just so far removed from who she is now. And so he has to, like, romanticize who she was. I remember the Morgan I fell in love with. But the one you are now is okay.
My hair color was going through all kinds of things at that point.
I liked it though. And I saw her and I immediately was like, she is really attractive.
It probably means nothing, but it's weird to me to hear him go, I saw her, instead of being like, I saw you. Like, your partner, the person you're talking about, isn't literally right next to you.
My first thought, I just took a sigh of relief, probably. And I was like, she showed up. And she's as attractive as she was on her pictures.
Oh, thank God she's 20. I didn't want an old lady. I didn't want her to show up and be legally allowed to drink. Like, you can't even meet at a bar halfway. You have to meet at a book fair. I would get it if he was like 22, maybe even 23. But 27, 20 is so far beyond what I'm comfortable with. Editor Max here, I started saying 2720 for some reason. It's 2620, which I don't think makes a big difference, but I did want to clarify that. I do start saying 2720 when talking about their ages from here on out. If I'm 27, my younger sister will have graduated high school before a 20-year-old was in high school. And that's wild to me. Obviously, that's like me overthinking it, but also like, I don't know how to justify 2720. I really don't. I think that's gross. You're not going to convince me that 2720 isn't the same as 2518. And 2518 is like, well, you know, maybe she's 17 and about to be 18. Oh, maybe she's in high school, but like she's really mature for her age. Like, there's a line there that I think is really gross.
I was pumped. I was pumped.
Goodness. You were walking towards me. I like gave him a look up and down. I was like, oh, he's cute.
Let's just go over some of the thoughts we were having as we were conversing.
Oh, I gotta try to remember.
I remember thinking to myself, this is such an unusual first date because this girl is so real and raw. She's telling me stuff that I think 98% of girls would be like, I'm gonna hold off on that. Ooh, what's he gonna think about me? What if I say this? She was just an open book, almost too much.
Well, she's 20, dude. She's unfiltered. Like, a lot of 20-year-olds just kind of say whatever they want or whatever they're thinking. Like, that's normal. However, I don't think there's anything wrong with like meeting people who don't want to tell you everything about themselves right away. People are gonna ask for comfortability before they reveal most of themselves. And some people aren't, like her, but also she's 20, dude. Like, the stuff I said when I was 20, just because I was so convinced that like I was real and honest, and honestly I was just kind of being a dick.
But it was refreshing to me because I had seen the other side where girls are so careful, so cautious. Maybe they're just saying what they think I want to hear.
So careful, so cautious. They don't want to tell me where they go to high school. All right, Paul.
So I was like, this girl's being real with me. And for you, you've said in the past that you kind of got to that place because you were like, I want to put out who I really am.
I forgot about that. Oh, I have to watch the wedding, don't I?
Yeah, I didn't want to waste time. Even though like I wasn't looking to be in a serious relationship, maybe that was also partly God like being like, don't waste time, just be real in who you are. I don't know.
It was partly God being like, girl, I'm not doing this again. You have to settle, and you have to settle now.
I just felt like I'm not gonna hide who I am. Like, I'm a mess right now.
Again, you're 20. I know I'm pausing it a lot, but she's 20. She's supposed to be a mess. Most of us were not anywhere near put together at 20. A lot of us did not have it in us to be like, I'm a mess. I'm not going to date. You're a 20-year-old. That's so normal.
And I looked at that and I was like, guys, again, like, you can judge us if you want. When she says she was a mess,
I wasn't like a mess. Okay, actually,
we all have our messy stuff. So I was a mess in some ways, but I think if you just looked at it, looking in on it, Morgan was going through, again, 3.5-year relationship. She was out of that, but there was some stuff within that wasn't great.
Yeah, and just again, like you guys probably know, I struggled severely with depression for a long time, anxiety, panic attacks. At that time, I had a service dog that helped calm me down for my panic attacks. Like, I had a lot of stuff.
One other layer to that was she had, we just got to say it because this was a significant thing. We sit down on the bleachers, the book fair is going on. We're kind of over to the side just chatting. And I noticed she had 2 tattoos. One was a former dog that she used to have.
My service dog.
One was a infinity symbol.
Right here, guys. This is a cover up if you didn't know. I had the infinity sign and it said, until marriage.
Yeah, and...
Okay, so here's a woman. You met on a dating app. You didn't want to be on a dating app. Her bio said that she likes snuggling. You think she's kind of loose. And later on, according to the Reddit post, we're going to learn that she was also not a virgin. Makes sense to me. She just got out of a 4-year-long relationship. But that was a bit of a problem for him. And also, she's 20, which is 7 years your junior. Here's a woman. Everything about her does not align with the person you say you want. But she's available. She's physically there. And she's in a place where you can, quote unquote, take advantage of her. So you go for it?
So some of you guys are gonna have really strong opinions on tattoos. Don't want to go into that right now, but I was like, I think it's kind of cool that you have tattoos. I maybe said, tell me about them, or I don't even know if I did.
Yeah, you were like, I like your tattoos. It's cool that you have some tattoos. And I was like, oh yeah, thanks. I was like,
okay, never mind. He's pro tattoo, amateur pickleball.
Don't pay any attention to this though. It's not true.
She went ahead and just told me. I mean, this is literally within an hour of meeting each other. That conversation where she ultimately told me that she
was not a virgin. I said like something like, pay no attention to this when I'm getting it covered up. And then I like told him the story.
Yeah. So I in the course of this first date, I was just trying to get to the heart of who is this person? Who really is this person? And
what did they cut out? After she was like, I'm not a virgin, they had to have had some sort of conversation that made him look bad that they ended up cutting out, because that is just such a weird sentence to drop and then not talk about.
And she was so vulnerable with me, I felt like it wasn't that.
Brother, she was vulnerable, period.
Who really is this person? And she was so vulnerable with me, I felt like it wasn't that hard to get there. Yeah, there's some stuff, but it's like, who is this person? Where's her heart at? And I was sensing a lot of good stuff. On top of that, I was just having so much fun. I think I came home and told some of my friends this was the best first date I had ever been on. And I, leading up to that, had been going out on a lot of dates to try to find my wife.
So we walk around this book convention for a long time, and then we're hungry, so we go to this pizza place, and what do I know? About 6 of Paul's best friends show up out of nowhere, and are like, hey, we just happen to be here.
And I'm not totally sure how that all...
Yeah, how did that happen?
Like, did I invite 5 of my friends to come kind of join us on the second half of our date?
But I met them, and they were amazing and so funny. At first, I was a little weirded out.
Nah, dude, if one of my friends right now, my age, was like, hey, come hang out with me and this 20-year-old I'm dating, I would be like, dog, that's weird. too young for you. And I've done that twice in the last year, where someone who, whether or not I consider them a friend, has decided to reach out to me to be like, hey, you know, I'm kind of thinking about asking this person out, or I've been talking to this person. And I go, how old are they? And they go 22. And I go, you're 31, dude. No. And they go, oh, yeah, I guess that is kind of weird. And I go, it's very weird. You're a weird dude. Don't do that. Like, what am I supposed to do? Lie to you? No, I'm not protecting your feelings, especially if you're like a creepy man.
Out that his friends were showing up, but then it was like a relief because we had talked for like 2 hours straight of him asking me a ton of questions.
Probably
I was like,
drilling,
I need to chill out.
Probably drilling her a little too much. I get going a little bit.
So before his friends came and we were still sitting on the bleachers and talking, I just asked Paul, I was like, so why were you on Tinder? And one of the reasons, the main reason I asked him this was after talking to him for an hour or so, I just realized like this guy is very Christian, very like, was homeschooled, sheltered, like he is...
That explains so much. Oh, if you would have just told me at the beginning he was homeschooled, that would have been just so much easier.
Strange. And like, just like, he was so like innocent and pure and like naive in the best ways. And I was just like, Tinder is known as like the hookup site and like the place you go if you want fancy dinner dates. Kind of. Not really, honestly, but I thought it was. So I was like, why the heck are you on Tinder? And he said, well, I'm looking for a wife. And I think that I was taking a sip of my water or something, and I was like...
You know what's funny? Like, as I'm hearing this, like, we were both weird.
We do kind of have to acknowledge this part, that regardless of what we think of their relationship or what it may look like to everyone, they are still together. And regardless of how little I would want to have their marriage, they're married and they're together and they've been together for a decade. So I'm hoping that they are happy within their relationship, regardless of how much I wish they were not on the internet. You think, I promise you, for the first 3.5 years, he was so angry about not being her longest relationship. Like 2.5 years into their marriage, he is still not her longest relationship. And I promise you he thought about that. Currently, I'm my partner's longest relationship. She's not mine yet. Sorry. That's your fault. Where were you 10 years ago?
And how honest we were.
Yes, we were very honest.
Like, you matched my honesty.
Yeah.
And it made for a really interesting first date.
You matched my Christian freak, girl. When I said Jesus was a carpenter, you said, did the carpenter match the drapes? And then I didn't get that one and you had to explain it to me, girl. That's so funny.
I laughed at that and I was like, oh, well, you're probably on the wrong website or something. And he was like, I don't think so. He's like, you can find a wife anywhere. You just got to look for him. Boom!
I don't like that. I don't like that because of the conversation we've just had. So now I imagine him sitting outside of high school, which it's hyperbolic of me to speak this way because 20 is not 17. 20 is not 18 in high school. 20 is 20. But still so young. You can find a wife anywhere, which is why I go to parent-teacher conferences. Do you have a kid? Nope.
And I was like, this guy is insane. He is so naive.
Do you think Paul had one of these? Like, actual question. Do you think Paul had an attraction sign? Too many of you have told me I have ADHD. My girlfriend has also told me I have ADHD. I'm trying to make it contagious. So if you're watching this video, congrats. You now have ADHD. There's also a clip of them talking about mental disorders, and she says something about them being spiritual, and then Paul jumps in and goes, but ADHD is less so. It's not really like one of them because he has ADHD, and he's like, okay, but not me though. I'm good, right? I'm perfect.
I just remember constantly thinking that in our first few like dates and stuff. Probably the entire time we were dating, I was just like, this guy is so naive.
In the best way?
27 and naive. If a 20-year-old can look at you and say you are naive, they're probably both 20 mentally.
Best way. Yeah, so basically he said, he's like, yeah, I'm not messing around. Like, I'm not dating to date. I'm looking for a wife. I was just kind of like, okay, well, I think I said something like, oh, well, I'm not getting married for like another 5 years or something like that.
Something. And in my mind, for whatever reason, I was like, we'll see about that. Like, I didn't say that, but I was thinking like,
4 months later and we were engaged, y'all. One thing that I didn't mention is when we first like walked up to each other and met for the very first time, I went in to like give him a hug and he goes, hey, what's up?
That's so funny. He stuck to it. He was like, I don't want a woman that snuggles with other men. That's too loose. Don't hug me, woman.
Did
And
I
he
really?
gave me a high five.
I didn't even do. I didn't even do a side hug.
You didn't until we left.
I do kind of respect that. I do kind of respect the whole, like, I'm standing on this business. We high five or you get nothing.
Then he gave me a very like side hug and I was like, oh my goodness. Right before I got in the car, he said, you know, I've always wanted to go to Southeast Christian, so like, which is the church that I went to. He was like, maybe we could go next week together. And I was like, oh yeah, that'd be fun. So he already like planned out our second date. He was like, and then we can go grab breakfast afterwards or something, whatever.
After y'all go to the morning service, when I was a kid, I used to have to go to the 11 a.m. one. It was in Spanish.
So I said, yes, that'd be fine.
You left, you drove off, you got home, and are you thinking to yourself, I could see this going somewhere?
I still was in a very strange mindset. I think I was very just kind of like in a daze / like really confused, trying to figure Paul out. I just like had never met a guy like him in my life.
It's kind of like, this man is so strange and mysterious and...
This man is so afraid of women, especially women his age. Wonder why that may be. Oh well.
wild and fascinating.
Yes, exactly like that. I had never met a guy like you, babe.
Well, you're 20. You've only met 3 men, okay? Like, chill on that one.
I think, honestly, all of my friends would say they've never met a guy like you either. Like, you're just rare.
Okay, Morgan. This is between me and Morgan now. If you're not Morgan, earmuffs for the next 22 seconds. All of your friends would say they've also never met a guy like him, immediately followed by, I would never date a man like him. I would never want to be with a man like him. If he said the things that he says to you and around you, to me and around me, I would start telling people he was still a virgin. Okay, come back. Welcome back. I didn't say anything mean. Nope. I was just like, wow, Morgan, I hope you're doing well.
People like Paul, men like Paul exist. My friends are married to guys like similar to Paul, but Paul in himself, just like a very unique man. It
would be so funny if one of her friends was married to an actual pro pickleball player and he's so jealous.
Just been around several guys, obviously, in my 3.5-year long relationship, and then a few guys in between that, 4 months before meeting Paul, of guys who like said they were Christians but like weren't really living a Christ-like life. It was just weird for me to actually see it in the like flesh. Like, there guys like this exist. Like, he says he loves Jesus, and he actually like seems like he loves Jesus. Just him like, you know, sharing just scriptures on our first date, like quoting the Bible. I was just like, what is this? I've never witnessed that. Or it was rare anyway.
And the Bible says, so what kind of car did you drive here?
So I was just like, and he's looking for a wife. I don't know. I just don't know.
So it was, you were somewhere like in the middle. Maybe this could actually be my husband one day. Maybe it's totally...
Oh, no. That wasn't even in my mind at that point. I was just like, I'll give this guy another chance.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I get home.
Yeah, I don't know how to explain to Paul that not everyone thinks about marriage after the first date.
Just like, I'll give this guy another chance.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I get home and my mind is like, yeah, you know, she's a wild stallion of a woman. So I was at that point, again, proceed with caution, as you should, so early on, but I was really hopeful that this was going to go somewhere. So we confirmed date number 2, which was probably close to a week later on Sunday, going to our church. And I remember church starting up, the worship starting, and I looked over at Morgan during worship, and she was worshiping God with passion. She was worshiping God like she had an intimate relationship with him. And that was so beautiful to me, because that's what I wanted.
I hate everything about the way that he said that. Oh yeah, she mentioned she wasn't a virgin, and I thought it was with her 3.5-year relationship. No, it's with God. And I'm watching it happen. It's so raw and real and intimate. And the pastor says, "Is God in you?" And Morgan says, "Oh, he's in me." And I'm watching it happen. Our second date, I got cucked by God, and that's when I knew this is the love of my life. It's just an insane thing to say. Is it God or is it Gatorade?
It was so beautiful to me, because that's what I wanted. I wanted a girl that loved the Lord, that maybe had some baggage, or maybe had some stuff to work out, more than someone who had this spotless record and was just kind of passive when it came to the things of God. And obviously,
brother, okay. Like, there's so many different ways to say that. There are plenty of ways to say that I wanted someone who had life experience. Sure, I guess is probably the simplest way to say that, rather than be like, I wanted someone with baggage. I wanted someone who I could kind of control a little bit, or like they needed me more so than they wanted me. I wanted someone who praised God in the way that I also wanted to be praised. Also, like, they're 20, brother. Like, she is 20 at this point. What traumas do you want her to have gone through? Like, I understand that a lot of us went through a lot at that age, but that's entirely different than what we should have gone through. To say that I want a 20-year-old who has been through life is wild. What you should want for 20-year-olds is to have enjoyed their childhood. Whether or not that's what we got, whether or not that's what real life is, what you should want for 20-year-olds is for them to have had a very good first 20 years of their life and a very good next 20. Not, yeah, I want someone with a little bit of trauma. I want to be able to say things to her and her to go, oh yeah, my dad used to say this to my mom all the time. It's completely normal. Not, oh, that's weird.
And obviously there was more stuff that I wanted to get to know about Morgan, but seeing a woman that loved to worship God, that was a huge plus for me at that moment.
It's funny because between our first date and our second date was, a week. And in the middle of that week, I sent him, we're texting and stuff, and somehow physical boundaries comes up. And he says that
was before our date with church.
Yeah. And he says that he does not I don't even know how this got brought up or whatever, but he said he doesn't even want to hold a girl's hand unless he knows that he's going to marry them.
I was trying to be thoughtful in the way I wrote it, but I probably was just like, I just want to be...
It wasn't rude. It was just like, I read it and I was just like, hold hands until we're engaged, which he didn't say engaged. He just was like, I want to be sure. Like, I want to know. Like, I'm going to be with this woman. And so it was like...
That's definitely a line, and you're allowed to have your boundaries. Am I judging that one a little bit? Yeah. Now this is kind of a bit of a real conversation. The scary part about having physical boundaries that are that kind of minimal, really not to minimize wanting a physical boundary, whatever it is, not wanting to be touched at all, completely normal. The issue with someone like Paul being like, I don't even want to hold hands until I know I'm going to marry this person, is that 4 months into your relationship, you are engaged. And it may have worked for them, but more often than not, it's not going to. And here's a line, not working doesn't mean divorce. The entirety of the internet is looking at these two yap and sit with each other and going, I do not want a marriage like them. You can stay together, but it doesn't look fun. And 4 months into your relationship going, okay, I want to hold hands now. I want to be able to kiss now. I want to be able to hug now. And so you get engaged that early on is exactly the problem that we brought up with the Girl Defined sisters being like, I want to get married at 20 so that I could have sex. I'm not going to tell you not to get married or engaged after 4 months, but I am going to tell you that you should not do it because you want to be able to cross a boundary that you otherwise have with yourself. I don't care if that's hand holding. I don't care if that's kissing. I don't care if that's sex. Just do it. Somehow, in my head, getting married to someone just so that you could sleep with them, and then later on finding out that you don't really want to be with them is a lot worse than just having sex when you're unmarried and then finding that out earlier. That cannot be a hot take.
Just shocking to me. I had never heard that before. Like, that was insane to me. So I was just like, I sent him a text back and was like, I don't think that I'm the girl for you.
She said that, and I read that, and I was like, it totally blindsided me. But it wasn't that I read it and thought, oh, this girl just wants to get real physical.
This girl wants to hold hands. Damn. Am I going to give up my morals? Am I going to give up my relationship with God? Am I going to possibly send myself to hell just to hold hands with a woman? He also didn't say woman. He's been saying girl this whole time, which I think says a lot about him.
She was just so not used to someone like me.
And he wrote back and he was like, why do you say that? And I was like, well, I just don't think that I can, like, not hold someone's hand if I like them. Like, or, like, give them a full front hug or, you know, kiss when I feel like the time is right. I was like, I just think that's a big part of a relationship. And he was like, okay, well, I hear what you're saying, but, like, can you just give us a chance? And I was like, oh, this guy, okay, fine. And then we went out on our second date, and I was glad, and I was like, okay, I'm starting to like this guy. Maybe I could just be fine with not holding hands.
Yeah, again, I know that I'm just a hater. I hate the things he says, and I hate the way that she says things. I understand that it's me. I'm the problem. I get it. It's the same reason that I can't watch, like, it's whatever. It's whatever. It's whatever. It's whatever. I'm not the audience for this. It's the same reason I can't watch Jake Doolittle, right? Where he goes, a rock. Same pattern.
Which it wasn't that long into our dating relationship before we started holding hands.
He immediately let up. He was like, I can't do it. Oh, we're dating now? Okay, I can do it. You're right. You're so right. I was being a prude. But we can't interlock fingers.
But
Yeah, I didn't wait as long as I
thought he would.
initially wanted to for that. I did wait till I got her father's permission to marry her to kiss her. So at that place in our relationship, I felt like I know this girl well enough to see a future with her, assuming she wasn't going to drop any other just like bombs on me that
I want to know what her dad's like. If a man 7 years older than her came to me 4 months into their relationship to marry my 20-year-old daughter, I'm not saying I'd be like, no, get away from her. I actually probably would be because of the age gap, but I would at the very least be like, give it another year, dog, before you consider this.
looking at the person that I see right now and the trajectory, the path that you're on, not
The past. I was a new creation. Even though I was still trying to figure things out, like, there was something totally different about me. And, like, that was just clear. And I think Paul and his spirit just saw that and felt that. And that's why he stuck around, because
You're 20. You're 20. You don't know who you are. That's normal. You're 20. Like, how many of us here are the same person we were at 20? I've grown and changed, molted, been a little crab boy so many times over since then.
like, even though I was saying, like, I have all of these struggles, it was clear that I was changing. That was kind of why he hung around and pushed for our relationship.
Yeah, I was just like, man, this woman is special.
This is just, like, literally the story about how we met and, like, our first 2 dates.
Yeah.
We have so much more.
Man, I mean, in a short amount of time, because it was 4 months of knowing each other, we were engaged, and then another 4 months and we were married. There's plenty more that can be shared, but there you go. There's how we met.
Yep. Comment below and let us know if you appreciated and enjoyed our How We Met love story.
Yeah, was any part of it just like, did it really catch you off guard? Let us know what part that was. If you enjoyed hearing
Not
about
off guard. It is exactly what I would expect out of someone like him. I still really don't like how they glossed over the whole virgin thing. I think they should have just cut that out rather than mention it. What is so important about her not having been a virgin that Paul wanted that mention left in the video but didn't want to expand on it is what's weird to me. Like, either mention it or don't. You talked about everything else, but you decided to mention that she wasn't a virgin but didn't want to have a conversation about it, or had one, it was gross and they cut it out, which is what I'm thinking. But that's weird. I'm going through the comments. None of them are really that important. One of them just kind of says, great video. I especially love the 3+ minute ad at the beginning that you didn't mark in any way or make clear was an ad. Nicely done. I'm not going to judge anyone for the speed at which their relationship progresses, but there has to be a why. And that why cannot be because we want to have sex, because we want to be physical, because we want to do these things that are in our heads being gatekept by marriage. If you marry someone the week after meeting them, that has nothing to do with me. That's great. I hope it works out. But it should come out of love and just wanting to love and wanting to love and wanting to love and wanting to love. Why do they have a video called How Morgan's Premarital Sex Began? That's nuts. Okay, we'll add that to the watch later. If you are so sure that the person you love now is going to be the person you love for the rest of your life, I am not going to tell you when to marry them. That is not any of my business. But if you are, oh man, I can't hold hands until we're committed. Oh man, I can't hug you until I know we're getting married. Oh man, I want to be so physical with you so badly that we have to get married, that's when it's a problem. And again, they've been together so long now that I just don't know. I don't know. Would I want their relationship? No. In no way. And do I like either of them as people? Nope. You lose a lot of my respect when the entirety of your being is not only being religious, but weaponizing it. Oh, she seemed loose because she liked to snuggle. Or your views on gay marriage, your views on pronouns. Like you don't have pronouns just by existing, you weirdo. But that's all stuff that we'll probably get into over the next few months as I ADHD dive into every little thing that I seem interested in. Is their relationship one that you would like to have yourself? The 10 years of marriage is fantastic. I love that for them. But the way they speak, the way that he speaks to and about her is gross to me. And the way that he has to remind people that she was not a virgin before him, despite her being 7 years younger, is gross to me. That is not any of our business. Even if you want to be judgy about that, even if you want to have a problem with your wife's life before you, the internet is not a place to be sharing that, dude. Like, that is obviously an insecurity of yours within your relationship and probably hers with the way that you brought it up. Keep it within your relationship. If the parts of you that you feel comfortable sharing online are the parts of you that people judge, the parts of you that people don't like, consider that you're probably not the best person. And I feel very comfortable in saying that about them, considering their views on other people. Like, you're not going to convince me that there are good homophobes out there. You're just not. There are nice ones, absolutely. And I've had this conversation so many times. Some of the nicest people I've met have been racist. Like, it's entirely different to be nice as an action than to be nice as a person. And you can do and say things that seem kind while being a bad person. And I think it's more important to judge people based on the ideas they have, the values they hold, and who they are, rather than the things they do every now and then. Anyway, I'm going to get into a very unnecessary rant that has nothing to do with this video. So I'm going to call it there. I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you all for spending time with me. It's probably just another long video where we stare at Paul and Morgan. You don't have to say goodbye to me, but Krobus gets sad. I'm doing what any good step parent does and ignoring my stepchild. You don't exist to me right now.